Group 5 presents
China, commonly known as the People's Republic of China, is considered to be the oldest civilization, with some historians marking 6000 BC as the beginning of the Chinese civilization. It also has the world's longest used written language. China is the third largest country by area at 9,706,961 square kilometers. And as of July 2012, China has the largest population in the world with over 1.3 billion people. It also has the second largest economy in the world, right after the United States, making it a great nation to do international business with.
Konnichiwa. Welcome to China, home to 1.3 billion people, where we do hard work. The Chinese government consists of the People's Republic of China, with President Xi Jinping, but the official authority of China is the Chinese Communist Party, better known as the CCP, where President Xi Jinping is the General Secretary. The Chinese Communist Party is ran by the Politburo, who are decision makers of the group. There are 24 members with 7 leaders, and membership is based on relationships that you build over time and not by being voted in. And also, the CCP oversees the People Liberation Armies and its 2.25 million members. Our gross domestic product has been 10.8 trillion dollars, and it's been growing over the last 10 years at an average rate of 9.2. In China, we have an international reach where we do over $2.04 million worth of business importing goods and services. And we not only do that, we also export $2.4 trillion worth of goods and services, where as you can see, we do over 500 million or 500 billion with the United States. We have taken over as the leading country FDI inflow with over $249 billion coming in yearly. We are not only an international business, we're also represented multinationally with many countries represented. We invest over $187 billion in different countries all over the world. And our business is not only good, also our inflation rate is only 1.4%, slightly below the national average. And we're in such a large growing market, the average time to start a business is actually 31.4 days, and the time required to register your property is only 19.5 days.
Power distance. At 80, China sits in the higher rankings of Power Distance Index as a society that believes that inequalities amongst people are acceptable. The subordinate superior relationship tends to be polarized, and there is no defense against power abused by superiors. Individuals are influenced by formal authority and sanctions and are in general optimistic about people's capacity for leadership and initiative. Individualism. At a score of 20, China is a highly collective culture where people act in the interest of the group and not necessarily of themselves. And group considerations affect hiring and promotions, with closer in groups, such as family, are getting preferential treatment. Employee commitment to the organization, but not necessarily to the people in the organization, is low. Whereas relationships with colleagues are cooperative in groups, they are cold, even hostile, to outgroups. Personal relationships prevail over task and company. Masculinity. At 66, China is a masculine society, success oriented and driven. The need to ensure success can be exemplified by the fact that many Chinese will sacrifice family and leisure priorities to work. Service people, such as hairdressers, will provide services until very late in the night. Leisure time is not important. Uncertainty avoidance. At 30, China has a low score of uncertainty avoidance. Nonetheless, adherence to laws and rules may be flexible to suit the actual situation, and pragmatism is a factor of life. The Chinese are comfortable with ambiguity. The Chinese language is full of ambiguous meanings that can be difficult for Western people to follow. Chinese are adaptable and entrepreneurial. At the time of writing, the majority, 70 to 80%, of Chinese businesses tend to be small to medium sized and family owned. Long term orientation. China scores 87 in this dimension, which means it is a very pragmatic culture. In societies with a pragmatic orientation, people believe that the truth depends very much on the situation, context, and time. They show an ability to adapt traditions easily to changed conditions, a strong propensity to save and invest, thriftiness, and perseverance in achieving results. Indulgence. China is a restrained society, as can be seen in its low score of 24 in this dimension. Societies with a low score in this dimension have a tendency to synchronism and pessimism. Also, in contrast to indulgent societies, restrained societies do not put more emphasis on leisure time and control the gratification of their desires. People with this orientation have the perception that their actions are restrained by social norms and feel that indulging themselves is somewhat wrong. With the world's largest population, China provides its citizens with a diverse school system. Public schools for students of all ages, specialized schools for the disabled, private schools, and vocational schools, among the many other institutions for education. Before the Communist Party took over in 1949, about 80% of China's population was illiterate. It took 60 years of educational reform and development, but by 2008, adult literacy rate in China dropped by only 3.58%. Elementary school and junior secondary school enrollment jumped to 99.5% and 98.5% respectively. The number of students in China enrolled in degree courses has risen from 1 million in 1997 to 5 million today.
China and the technological industry. As we can see from the graphs, China has invested massively in technology. They have over 1 billion cell phone users, over 20 million internet hosts. They also have over 600 million internet users and over 200 telephone users. This shows that they have invested massively in communication and keeping in touch with them through via the internet or mobile phone makes it easy as they have secure connection lines which would be good for us in this day and age. They have also invested massively in their infrastructure. In their roadways, as we can see from the table, they have more than 4 million kilometers of roadways or highways, which is amazing, especially for a country of its size and the rates that they're building highways. This shows that business and transporting goods around the country would be great. They have over 191,000 kilometers in railways. This is amazing because it's another form of transportation, which also makes transporting of goods much easier. They have over 507 airports, which is also very great. As we can see, they have invested tremendously in their technology, infrastructure, and communication. This shows that China is great to keep in contact with and do business with on this aspect of the Pastel model, and I would advise to use them as they seem to know that technology is what's running the world today.
As China's economy consistently grows, so does its negative impact on the world's environment. According to Yale's Environmental Performance Index, China's overall rank is 109 out of the 180 listed countries in terms of its environmental impact on the planet. Specifically, China's air quality is ranked at 179, being the second worst air pollutant in the world today. CO2 emissions from China seem to be leveling off at around 10 million kilotons as China's government pushes to promote renewable energy.
The legal system. China is a capitalist country with communist tendencies. This is highly due to their political system, whereby the country is run by one political party and has a stronghold on the nation and won't allow political opposition. This also shows political instability and increases tension as people with different views want away with the government. Hong Kong is a perfect example of a city that wants to break away from the Chinese political method. The Chinese system is mostly or primarily based on the civil law system. This means that the country follows a certain amount of legal codes which have to be followed according to the Law Library of Congress. The Chinese system is outlined as follows. The highest court in the country is the Supreme People's Court and the supervising organ in the country. The current Chief of Justice is President Zhou Qiang. Under the Supreme People's Court, we get the Special People's Court and the Local People's Court. Under the Special People's Court, we get the military courts, the maritime courts, the railway transportation courts, and the forestry courts. Under the local courts, we get the higher people's court, the intermediate people's court, and the grassroots people's court. The International Property Rights Index helped me provide the following information you're looking at the moment. Based on the information above, China has an average score of 5.4, based on a 4.4 in the legal and political context, a 6.5 in the physical context, and a 5.3 in the intellectual aspect of it. They rank 9th overall compared to the other Asian countries in the region. In the world, or globally, they ranked 55th out of 128. On the legal and political environment, the overall China has is 4.4 and are ranked 68th globally, and they're 10 out of 20 in the local Asian region. They have a lower rule of law, showing that they are willing to help lift certain regulations in order for the company to do business. They are also quite low when it comes to the judicial independence of the nation. The country is not too politically stable. This could also be due to their socialist ties. and their one party system. China does not fare too well when it comes to corruption, meaning corruption is easily noticeable. Based on the physical and property rights, as this information shows that it's not too complicated to get protection over physical property. It also shows that it's a smooth registration process, and getting a loan would be very hard in China because there's a score of 4.4. The score of 4.4 gives them globally 21st out of 128 countries, and in the local Asian market makes them 7th out of 20 countries. In the intellectual property right, the table shows that they are pretty low when it comes to the protection of property rights, but are fair in a way. Patent protection in the country is very commendable with a high score of 8.4. We have an issue with the copyright protection in the country, as they have a very low score of 2.6 when it comes to copyright protection, meaning that products can easily be manipulated or copied, and there is no way to actually get them to stop.
A SWOT analysis of China shows its advantages and disadvantages over other countries around the globe. China's strengths are greatly attributed to its growing economy thanks to its large population and resulting cheap labor. The advantages of having such cheap labor transitions it to being one of the top exporters around the globe. China's weaknesses are based around its authoritarian government, as there are no intellectual property rights being enforced in the country, and plenty of corruption according to the World Bank's Corruption Perception Index. Opportunities surround China in regards to improving human rights and political freedom for its people. There are also many opportunities that present themselves when it comes to environmental protectionism, such as pushing renewable energy. China faces serious threats as it is currently contesting international waters in the South China Sea, which could possibly escalate into a global military conflict with the United States. Another major threat is the possibility of a large housing bubble to burst, as it happened in the United States already. China also shares a border with North Korea, which is still at war with the United States, which can also result in large immigration